I was raised in Spanish Harlem, New York City, back in 49 I was born, but in the 50s, it was a rough place to live. I mean, it was when Spanish Harlem was Spanish Harlem. So I started working at the age of 5, not in show business, selling snow cones on the street with my grandfather. We used to sell up and down the streets of Harlem, sell snow cones. And that was my first my first job. I was 5 years old. And then from there I went on to Shining Shoes and worked in various places. I always held a job after school because I had to. We lived on welfare. My dad was not in the house, so I took the role over very early on. My mother started dating a New York City police detective when I was around 5, 6. I'm not, you know, he would come and I would see, I would go through his briefcase and look at all the pictures because he used to photograph. He was homicide down at Center Street in New York, and he would photograph. His name was Pete Panos, and he would photograph all the crime scenes. So I, at 6 years old, 7 years old, I'm looking at pictures of slashed throats, eyeballs hanging out, and I loved it. I mean, I said, wow, man, I want to catch the guy that did this. That's what it did for me. And he was such a great guy for about 4 years in our life that I said, man, I want to be a cop. And that's where it came from. How can I really blow this guy out of the water? The movie was called The Cross and the Switchblade. And the guy I played was a kid named Nicky Cruz, who was the leader of the most notorious gang in New York City back then. And they were called the Mau Maus. So anyway, I figured, you know what? I'm gonna go to 42nd Street, Times Square, and buy myself a switchblade. And I bought a switchblade, a real, you hit the button and this thing pops out. 6 inches, right? And I had it in my back pocket when I walked in, nobody knew it. And when I got to my audition, my callback, Don Murray, who directed it, who was in a movie with Marilyn Monroe called Bus Stop, and he also played the Hoodlum Priest, and he wanted to direct something, and this was his first thing to direct. And he gave me my situation. He says, okay, on the stage there was a table, there were like 3 girls and about 5 guys, and he says, this is your gang, go up there, take control of your gang, this is your gang, and then you're gonna get a knock at the door. That's the scene, that's the exercise. Nobody knew I had a switchblade. And I knew Pat Boone was gonna be the knock at the door because they told us he was gonna be there. So I go up on the stage, and the first thing I do is I grab one of the girls and I give her a big kiss in the face, and I just like flip her. She almost fell over the chair. And then I start saying, okay, this is what we're gonna do tonight. We're gonna go down to Joey's store, and I'll distract Joey, and some of you try to steal some sodas and, you know, ring dings and devil dogs. Those were cakes and things we used to have as kids. And then we'll all go to the park and have a nice snack, and then we'll see what else we're gonna, and then boom, 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 knock at the door. And so everybody's just sitting there looking at me because I say, hey, you, go get the door. Huh? Go get the door! So he gets the door, and Pat Boone is standing in the door. And he comes in, he goes, can I talk to Nicky? The guy I played was called Nicky Cruz. He's now a real priest today. He brings a lot of people to God, all right? Wow. And the movie is shown in a lot of drug rehab centers and prisons and stuff. It's still out there. So now, he's at the door. He says, is Nicky here? So I took the role of Nicky. So I walked up to him, and he's just standing in the doorway. He says, Nicky, can I talk to you? And I go, what do you want? Huh? That's all I said to him. And then he says, Jesus loves you. And I just got so angry and enraged that I grabbed his shirt like that. I pull him into the room, slam him up against the wall by the door, and take the knife out and put it to his throat. I says, I'll kill you. And the director freaked out. He yelled, stop! Well, I got the part. I got the part. we were filming on the beach, right? And it was windy. So all of a sudden we're on the beach and all the chairs are set up and the cameras and the arc and everything on the sand near the water. And all of a sudden this big truck, a truck that carries all the tripods, all the lighting materials and wires and everything and cables and everything, was coming on the beach. And I'm going, wow. And I found that to be very odd because I never saw a truck on the beach. That's wild. I'm from the city. Remember, I'm from the ghetto. You see the beach if somebody takes you, or on TV. And so this truck is coming on the beach, and it's coming closer to us, and then it parks itself. And you know, and I said, wow, man, that's cool, truck on the beach. I never saw that before. And you know why the truck was on the beach? It was so it could block the wind so that Jack Lord's hair would stay in place. And I said, I love it! I want that power! When I auditioned for that, there were like 587 guys, and then they narrowed it down to 5, and then to 2, and then we had a screen test. We had a screen test because I played for so many years on Beretta, Kojak, Mannix, you name it. I've done it all. It's on your list. But I always played the stereotypical Hispanic bad guy, you know. And so when Chips came along, the NBC said, "Oh, we know this guy. We see him on Beretta. We see him on Kojak. We saw him on Police Story, Policewoman, you know, all this other stuff, Medical Center, and everything else. I'm going to put you in uniform, Eric, and we're going to do a scene." Once they put the uniform on me, they saw me, you know, it neutralized me and made me, I'm in a cop uniform, so hey, that's a good guy. So that worked and I got the thing. But before I got it, I auditioned for Chips always as an Italian American because his name wasn't Poncherello, his name was Poncherelli, and he was Italian American cop. And when I got the role and I got signed my contract, I walk into the producer's office and I said, "Hey, we got one change." And they're looking at me like, uh-oh, this guy's going to be trouble. I said, "No, look, it makes a lot of sense. For the last 6 years, I've been playing the bad guy on TV, and every other actor that's Latino plays the same kind of roles." I said, "I'm Hispanic American. We don't make them Puerto Rican. We don't make them Mexican. We don't make them anything. I'm Puerto Rican by background. You know, my family is from Puerto Rico." I went ahead and I said, "Look, we'll change his name to Poncherello and we'll make him a Hispanic American cop. It makes sense." And I broke that mold. And they agreed to it because I've still been fighting them today, you know, for it. So they agreed to it. I had them behind, you know, the 8 ball. Because they had to get in production real quick and deliver some shows. So they said, "Okay, fine." But back then, in '77, you barely had women behind cameras. You barely had any ethnic background people behind cameras, let alone Hispanics or blacks behind cameras back then. Maybe just starting to break, you know? And on TV, the Hispanics were always the bad guys. So here I was, and back then there was only 3 big channels. There was no MTV, VH1, cable. There was none of this stuff. There was none of this. You had ABC, CBS, and NBC, and then Channel 9, 11, and 5, and 1 or 2 others, and that's it. You could see that it's great to be educated and know when you get on a set all the technical jargon for equipment and everything else, but also bring yourself to the set. Bring who you are, okay? Bring who you are. Bring your passion. Bring what you learned. And bring what you want to learn, you know? And bring yourself. And you'll always keep growing. And all you can do is get stronger.